Well, Hugh Dancy, you're one of the busiest men I know. And one of the few that can actually juggle Broadway, TV, and movies all at the same time. What's this last few months been like for you, doing so many different kinds of things?
Well, I mean, of course, in fact, it's never all happening at the same time. I've been doing Venus and Fur now since, well, let's see, we started rehearsing in September of last year. So a fair while. And before that, I was filming The Big C back, almost a year ago now. So, you know, and then they often pile up. They all come out and hit the big wide world at the same time. But no, I've had my head very much in kind of theatre land for the last few months.
Even when you're doing that, though, you're always looking at other things and preparing for other projects and so forth. So I know it's probably in your mind you're juggling several different disciplines and characters and such.
Well, yes, sure. I mean, you obviously have to keep your eye out for what's going to happen next. I mean, one of the advantages of theatres is that sometimes the run is long enough that you can actually you can put that to one side. You don't have to, you think, well, frankly, I don't need to find another job for 4 months. I can just concentrate on what I'm doing right now, which for an actor is a bit of a luxury. But yeah, sure. I mean, you read, you keep your eye out, keep your radar on, I suppose.
Well, this particular play, Venus and Fur, has gotten tremendous reviews. Lots of people that have been to see it love it, and but it's a challenging role. Even if the play wasn't challenging itself, anytime you don't get to hide in a big ensemble and it's just a two-person play, that's a big challenge. Tell us about just working on this project.
Well, the play certainly is challenging for lots of reasons. It's smart, and it's I wouldn't say that it's dense, because it's very, very accessible, but there's a huge amount going on under the surface. David Ives is a very, very smart writer, and it took us a good long time to unpack it, and make sense of it, and then as it were, not get lost in all of the intricacies, so that you're still presenting something entertaining and fast and palatable. Also, I've never had the experience of being on stage with just one other person. As you say, it's a two-hander. It's myself and Nina Arianda. We're on stage for about an hour and 40 minutes each night. And the other thing about this play, which is unusual, is that it takes place in real time. There's no scene breaks, there's no changes. What you see in an hour and 35 minutes is basically one scene of an hour and 35, and that's exhilarating for an actor, because once we jump in at the beginning, and it's like getting at the top of a water slide. You're gone, and then you're just ejected at the end, and the play carries you along. And on a good night, that is it's really one of the best feelings you can have.
Because it's so well written and complicated and mysterious and fun, and I've just heard so many different kinds of words about it. Are you still, even after all these performances, still finding little nuggets and things you hadn't noticed before, or so forth?
Yes, definitely. I mean, at this point, the big brushstrokes are in place. As the play progresses, without giving anything away, the dynamic between these two characters becomes richer and richer, and really more and more convoluted. And even though, as I say, I think the big overall sense of that I now understand. There are little moments every night that can still catch you off guard and kind of send you off in a different direction, and that's the mark of a good play. And also not just my own lines, but I'm listening to Nina every night, being on stage with Nina and hearing her lines and watching her performance. I'm still taken aback quite frequently, and strange. You think, if you've heard somebody say something 150 times to you, you think you'd pretty much be almost tuning out or something, but instead it just becomes more and more alive to me. And I think that is testament to David Ives' writing, as I said.
So an audience member who sees it one performance comes back later to see it again might might have just a little bit different take on it just by coming on a different occasion.
I think unquestionably so, yeah. Not necessarily because it will be different either, but because the play is fast, it's very verbal, it takes very, very sharp turns very, very quickly. And, people have said to me that there are moments when you watch it, if you watch it for the first time, that you kind of have a choice. You think to yourself, well, am I going to stop and sit and think about what I just saw in that last little bit, or am I just going to put it to one side and keep my attention on what's happening on stage? I personally love that kind of experience in the theatre where you just think, you're by the seat of your pants. But obviously, for people who've come back to see it again, and I have friends who've seen it more than once, they say that it's a completely different experience because you have as it were, you're slightly more in control of the ride. And then, yes, I think it is also probably becoming a slightly richer production as the weeks go by also.
Probably, too, in this kind of play, and especially because there's only two of you on stage, that audience becomes a third character, basically, in their reactions to whatever's going on.
For sure, and as probably with any play anywhere in the world, the audiences vary pretty radically night by night. There's you're going to have one of the advantages of this play, as I say, because it's in real time, because it takes place. The set is so beautifully designed that it's almost like a little. The entire room is recreated on the stage, including the ceiling. You're seeing us in a kind of box, framed in a box, really. This little rehearsal room where the whole play takes place. And the advantage of that from our point of view is that it makes it very, very easy. Even the lighting is natural to the set. There are actually on the ceiling that are part of the set with us that she manipulates, of course, the play. So people always talk about audiences suspending their disbelief. But actually, I think also it makes it very easy for us, the actors, to suspend our disbelief and to essentially forget that there's anybody else out there.
Well, hopefully Tony Awards voters, and when they're getting together here the next couple of weeks, will take notice of both you and Nina, and as well as all the folks involved in the production. Well,
I certainly hope that the play's recommended David Ives for some time, and this when award season comes around, it's obviously it's a juggernaut of a thing, but I would be very happy if the play is recognized.
Well, just following Tony's will be Emmy season, and you had a really good guest arc this past season on The Big C. You're no stranger to Emmys. You had a nomination back, 2008 for Elizabeth I, and your co-star Jeremy Irons happened to win that category. But tell us about what drew you to that role on The Big C and working with Laura Linney.
Well, you pretty much answered the question in the question. It was primarily working with Laura, working with Oliver Platt. I mean, actually, the cast all the way through. That cast is so talented, and beyond that, Jenny Bix, who's the showrunner, she pretty much pitched me what they were thinking in terms of that character, and it seemed very interesting to me. Obviously the tone of the show is one whereby she's actively trying to find some lightness within this, very dark experience that she's going through. And I thought it was interesting to have to play a character that would challenge that, somebody whose conscious decision is knowing that he's going to die, is to entirely detach himself from human connection and not pursue those kind of warm, comforting experiences that maybe most of us would go after. And I thought that's really interesting because those two characters, Laura's character and my character, really challenge each other almost philosophically. I'm an affront to what she's trying to do, and equally when we become closer and she starts trying to involve me in her life, she is really seriously challenging my approach to life and death. And I thought, well, to do that, but to do it and keep it light, and to play that kind of story within something that is, broadly speaking, a comedy, there's going to be there's a lot to do there for an actor. There's a lot to play with, and I thought if you can do that with an actress of Laura's caliber, then you're going to have a good time.
Well, that show always has to walk a fine line between comedy and drama, and your character in particular, I'm sure that had to be a real drawing point for you, that you got to play both sides of that.
Well, what I liked about him was that the comedy was not in the situation at all. There was no need to try and put him and her and Kathy, into oddball situations. He brought the comedy himself. He was really a very funny, very light-hearted guy. And so I felt I never had to kind of stretch, to reach for the humor in the situation. I was just playing somebody whose approach was very flippant, who was kind of a little, he has this kind of cynicism which comes across as kind of wit, but is really concealing somebody who's quite vulnerable and obviously is ultimately very simpatico with her. So, I would have hated to play like, the token guy who's dying of cancer, who's going to make it all really funny. That would have been a very uncomfortable spot to be in. But they approached it in a much more intelligent way than that.
Well, I certainly don't remember seeing a character anything like that, in terms, especially in that kind of a situation, really on TV before.
I think it was fairly unique. I mean, I think the show is pretty unique in terms of their premise being so bleak, really. I mean, so challenging, and then to start from that point and say, but in fact, the show they're trying to make is so different. Has so much life in it and hope. I was very, very lucky to be involved in it.
Well, next up, in terms of TV, Hannibal is one of the most anticipated projects I've heard of in a while, and you're playing the main FBI character, Will Graham, on there. What drew you to that?
Two things. First of all, the quality of the writing. I'd read a few pilots, episodes, etc., and this one just seemed just head and shoulders above the rest.
Well, the only concern I have, and you've been on Showtime now, and your wife Claire Danes is on Showtime, obviously with Homeland, is you have a lot more freedom on there. So a show like Hannibal on network television, I just hope that they're able to do everything they want to do.
Yeah, I hear you. All I can say is that I felt that first script that initially got me interested, and then Brian Fuller's description of the shape of the first season as he views it is, I think not just faithful to the spirit of the books, but seriously ambitious. And like I say, maybe if you're on cable, you think, well, we can have more gruesome murders, we can have this and that. But I personally would tire of that quite quickly. That's not what interests me about those books and about the idea of serial killers, actually, full stop. It's the mind of the monster that is what you want to explore. And I think that, I'm confident that we can do that without having our hands tied behind our backs at all. And I know that, having spoken to people at NBC, that they're obviously kind of excited about it as well for the same reasons. So that's encouraging to me.
Well, I wanted to end up with, speaking of Claire, both you and she obviously could be at the Emmy Awards this summer. Were you a fan of Homeland? Did you enjoy it as much as the rest of us?
Yes, I did. I should think in some ways I probably enjoyed it even more, and in some ways my enjoyment was slightly hampered by the fact that it's not that pleasant watching your wife go through a major breakdown and getting electric shock therapy. But I was actually, when she was filming, I had started working on the play. It was last year, at the end of last year. She was still shooting, but they'd started screening the episodes, so that was how I kind of got it's how, I watch Claire every week. It's a nice way to keep up.
You both had such intense projects this past year. It was probably good just to get home at the end of the day and have a normal life.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. We're wishing you well on the Tonys and the Emmys, and just hope you have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you so much.